Welcome to the Deadly Dynasties podcast, where we talk all about how great monarchs rose to power, the events that unfolded during their reign, and what led to their demise. I am your host, DJ Hill. Today's episode focuses on one of Rome's most feared and possibly most mad emperors, Caligula. The Romans were an incredibly complex society. Rome was renowned as one of the greatest civilizations ever to be formed. Centralizing power in Italy, the Romans expanded its reach from the Middle East to Scotland. The Roman people carried great pride for themselves and for their nation. Their army was astonishingly organized, with a complex ranking structure to delineate a chain of command. Servius Tullius classified Roman soldiers based on their wealth. The richer you were, the more substantial and expensive equipment you could afford. This left the richest of the Roman soldiers fighting in full-plated bronze armor with the best weapons, and the poorest soldiers fighting with slings and stones. The Romans were widely known for their secular society. They took advantage and enjoyed many things of the world. When it came to religion, they believed in the existence of gods, but wielded little faith. Their religion was deep-rooted in works rather than belief. The Romans were not only known for their advancements in civilization, but also for their great successes on the battlefield, which enabled them to become one of the most influential empires. Through brute strength, the Romans went about slaughtering their way to control over more lands. During the time of Rome, when a city was sacked by a siege, it was generally accepted that all inhabitants and their property within belonged to the victors. This was the case in 146 BC, when Rome sacked the city of Carthage, taking on slaves and gold for Rome. Houses were raided and gutted of all valuables, and then put to the torch. As the defeated, you had to come to the acceptance of your fate, and in some cases, that meant inevitable death. When we uncover the political life in Rome, we are faced with a rather intriguing system. It was an intricate system composed of an emperor at the helm and a select group of 100 Roman elitists to form the Senate. There was oftentimes discontent between the Senate and the emperor, or even between the senators themselves, on lawmaking policies and the balance of power in Rome. This discontent bred conspiracies that sometimes ended in blood. The most famous and well-known example of this was the assassination of Julius Caesar. The city of Rome was magnificent, beautiful, and filled with riches. However, beneath the topsoil, Rome has a dark history with mad emperors. 4 years of terror ensued Rome between the years 37 AD to 41 AD, when Gaius Caligula inherited Rome from Tiberius following his death. Tiberius's reign ended poorly as he descended into madness following the death of his son and heir. The people of Rome hated Tiberius and looked to anyone to save them. When Caligula ascended to power at the age of 24, he was met with open arms and loving people. The first several months of his reign were said to be blissful, mainly because he wasn't Tiberius. He reversed unjust tax laws, raised the salary of his own guard, and entertained the masses through gladiatorial games. Life was normal for Caligula until the end of his first year in power, when he fell dangerously ill and came close to death. It was later determined that someone poisoned him. When Caligula recovered and came to the realization that there was an attempt on his life, he grew ever more paranoid and distrusted those around him. Consumed by fear, Caligula ordered the execution of his cousin and adopted son Tiberius Gemellus. He then went on to poison his outraged grandmother, Antonia Minor, making her death appear to be a suicide. Caligula murdered both his brother-in-law and father-in-law. That only left his two sisters, of whom he exiled both from his empire. Caligula continued to suffer physically from his assassination attempt. He was seen wandering the palace at night, complaining of unbearable headaches. Unable to sleep and unsure of who he could trust, Caligula slipped further away from reality. On his many sleepless nights, he would visit the Temple of Jupiter's to talk to the gods. In the words of Caligula, "Although I have taken the form of Gaius Caligula, I am all men, as I am no man, and therefore I am a god." A person with unwavering absolute power and authority can be fearsome, but when that person believes they are divine, that's when things become deadly. Caligula reinstituted trials for treason, and his thirst for blood was never quenched. When the state's treasury ran dry in the year 39, Caligula falsely accused and executed individuals and seized their properties and belongings. Having no military background or experience, Caligula sought to expand Rome into Britannia. As part of this campaign, he even declared war on the god of sea, Neptune. He lined his army and artillery up on the beach, declaring victory over the ocean. He then ordered his men to collect seashells as their spoils of the war. In Caligula's spare time, he would overindulge in spending and having sex with other men's wives. He killed on a whim. On one occasion at the games, he ordered an entire section of the audience be thrown into the arena and eaten by the wild beast, just because he was bored. At the height of his insanity, he named his favorite and beloved horse, Incitatus, a consul, and appointed him a priest. The people of Rome feared and hated their leader. The emperor could care less. He felt as if he was feared, he was safe. More assassinations were conspired and thwarted. To conspire and fail meant death in the eyes of Caligula. In 40 AD, Caligula announced that he was going to leave Rome to move to Egypt and be worshipped as a god. This empowered a man named Cassius to convince officers of the Praetorian Guard and senators to conspire another assassination. Caligula was being escorted in an underground corridor beneath the imperial palace during one of the games in January 41 AD. It was here that Cassius, the conspirators, and the Praetorian Guard surrounded Caligula. Cassius was said to be the first to plunge his knife into the emperor. Shortly thereafter, the others joined in. Stabbed 30 times, Caligula fell to the ground and died. In the aftermath of Caligula's death, the conspirators were disbanded and Claudius assumed power, ordering the death of Cassius. Power in the hands of a madman proved to be fatal for many, but out of the blood comes an important lesson. A man who rules on fear alone does not rule for long. Such is the case of the ill-willed Roman Emperor, Caligula. If you enjoyed today's podcast, leave a like or comment, and if you like the content, subscribe for more.